All right. Welcome everybody to today's stream. Today we're going to be making kind of a cool poker scene. It's kind of the vision. So we're going to kind of do like a little poker table here, some cards, poker chips, and then we're going to try and get some atmospheric lighting in there and get that all looking pretty nice. So I say let's go ahead and start with making the cards. So that should be one of the simpler parts. It's pretty much just some rectangles and a couple textures. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some reference images, and then we can go ahead and plug those in and get started. I'll go ahead and make a plane, and we'll scale it up until it's about card shaped, and then Control Shift B to bevel the edges just a little bit. And give us that nice card shape. And then we will go ahead and grab, let's see here, it's a good set. And you guys can't see my screen right now, but I'm just kind of going through on Google and finding a good set of cards to use that are also good resolution, because we don't want to be using like 480p cards, because then it's not going to look good when we render this in a higher resolution. But my guess is we got some pretty good sets here. This is a good one. Go ahead and toss that, save that, and then go into textured view and start making a card. So cards are actually pretty simple. You just toss the image plane onto a flat plane, and that's about all there is. So if we toss this image, you can obviously see it's all warped and stretched. And so we want to come over here and go to the UV editor, tab into edit mode, and now you can see this is our entire card face, and you can see it's not scaled the same. That's why you get that horizontal stretching. But if we just right click or U to unwrap, and we go project from view, that's going to give us a box that is the shape and size of our card. And then just scale it down and drag it onto one of those cards. And there you go. Now I'm not actually liking this as much now that I'm looking at it, because there's no white border on the cards. But it's a good basis. So if we do something a little different, I'll go find myself a better set of cards. Or you know what? Here's the other thing we could do. We could just tab into edit mode, scale that down a little bit, and then make that the size of the card, and everything else go into face mode so that we can select the edge here. everything else will just scale down so it's just in the white. And there we go. Now we got a bigger border on that card. And this, we can just scale a little bit on the Y so we make sure we don't get in that black line up there. You can still see, I guess there's a little bit of it left. Beautiful thing is once we get this card modeled, all we have to do is just switch the position where that's at on the model, or on this image over here in the UV editor, and then we can get any card we want. So if I want, say, I don't know, do an 8 of spades, then we just drag that over, and super easy. Same thing with the, actually wait a second, is that, oh, we're kind of clipping the 8 a little bit. Yeah. Let's go. There we go, that's better. Okay. So now the other problem that we run into with the cards is that we're working with a two-dimensional plane, right? This plane has 0 thickness. So you can see if we have a texture on this side, we're gonna have the same texture on the other side, which is not how cards work. So what we need is we need to be able to put a back image on these cards. So if I just look up, you know, a simple bicycle card, or you know, whatever brand, then we can go ahead and find an image of the back of a card, and hopefully try and find one that's not a .webp, because those don't transfer well into Blender, which is very unfortunate. Let's see here. We can go ahead and, that one works. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to move this over, because we want to make sure that it's still using the same UV map. We want to make sure that's not changed. But we're going to duplicate our image, plug in the UV map, check that so that these are using different images. Otherwise, when we change this one, it'll change that one as well. And we'll go ahead and find our card backs, and we can plug that in. Now you see, one, it's really big, so we're actually, ooh, you know what we could do? Because if we move this right now on the UV map, it's gonna mess up where our card is, but we need the back to be permanent. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our card model, over to the data, UV maps, and create a new map. I'm just going to call this one back, and this one we're going to call face. So now we have 2 separate UV maps, or essentially telling the card that it can have, you know, data coming from 2 separate places. And so that's really handy, because now if we, oh, we gotta be in edit mode. If we go to here and we select, I'm gonna pan over a little bit, back, you can see it's on the back UV map right now. If we adjust this one, it will not change where our front facing card is located. So we can just, oh wait, we will also have to adjust this, because this is currently pulling from the face UV. So go UV map, UV to vector. This one's pulling from face. Duplicate that. And this one will pull from back. There we go. So now you can see we have the back of our card exactly where it's supposed to be. And we will just scale that down, scale it out. And just like that, there we go, back of the card, right? But again, we still have the same issue where it's the same texture on both sides. So how do we switch between those so that on one side we're looking at the face and on the other side we are looking at the back of the card? Well, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to mix color between these two images. So you notice right now it's just kind of, blending the two, and that's not what we want, right? We want one on one side of the plane and the other on the other side of the plane. So luckily, Blender has a feature for that. If we go to Geometry, you can see we have this option right here entitled Back Facing. And back facing essentially just identifies the normal, or which side is facing outward and which side is facing inward of a two-dimensional plane. And so if we plug that into Factor, we should get the back on one side and the face on the other side. And it's still a two-dimensional plane. If you go into Y, you can still see it has 0 dimension, but it looks as though it is a solid object because it has both images. So there we go, we made a card. If we go into rendered view, turn on ray tracing, because why not? You can see it doesn't look very good, but that's because we don't have any lights in the scene yet. So if I actually turn this to black and take off the light, we only have this singular light source right here. So we're trying to light the card with not a whole lot of data. Now the other thing I want to do is, playing cards typically have a slight bit of texture to them, a little bit of bump. So I want to come in here and actually add that in. So this is not going to be moving, so we can just go ahead and minimize all of this. Keep everything nice and tidy. Geometry, and then our mix. All right, and now what we're going to need to do is a noise texture. I figure this will probably be the easiest, and we'll see. I might end up not using the noise texture. I might input an image into it and use that. But for right now, I'm just going to try it with the noise. So we want to plug that into the height portion of a bump map, and bump into normal. And you can see right now, once this updates, we'll see if it works in Eevee. Yeah, there we go. You can see we get this really gross looking kind of bump to it. And right now the scale is way too powerful. So we want to make sure our strength is turned down until we just get a little bit of that wrinkle. And then we'll go ahead and map that just so it's secure. And the scale, we'll put the scale at something like 50. How does that look? Okay, that's not bad. I do want less detail so it doesn't look like it's been put through the wash. But more like 100. How does that look? Not bad. If we turn the strength down to 0.05 maybe? Oh, yeah, that's not bad. I'm almost curious. What if we just like turn it to 1,000 and turn this up? There we go. That's not bad. So now you can see it's got a little bit of texture to it. It kind of makes it look like paper, and you really probably won't see that in the actual scene. I'm actually gonna go ahead and flip this. Ooh. Is that applied on this side as well? It is. Okay, perfect. Yeah, you probably won't be able to see that, but just in case, we'll have it on there. Usually adding just a little bit of bump to everything will make it look a lot more photorealistic, which is kind of what I'm going for in the end here. And then the next thing I want to do, plugs into a color ramp. Control-Shift-Click to see what we're looking at. Perfect. And I kind of just want to add a little bit of difference between the ink part and the paper part. And I know technically a card is covered in this even gloss material, so you wouldn't see a difference. But I just want to add a little bit of something onto that. So as we wait for the shaders to compile here. Now you can see that's not what we're looking for. Our ink part is perfectly reflective like a mirror, and the card is perfectly dull. We want to make sure that's just a very slight, something like that, but I'm almost thinking, what if we flip those and the paper is shiny? This is gonna be funny. There you go, look, perfect mirrored card. No, we're actually just gonna something a little bit like that, and then sheen, add a sheen onto the whole thing. So hello Amelia, welcome to the stream. Can I make a model of Pietro? I do not know who that is. Who is that? You have to let me know who that is. Okay, actually we're not going to do the sheen this way. I forgot that sheen in the principal BSDF has a few issues. But if we go mix shader and we add in a glossy BSDF, plug that in, that should look significantly better. There we go. So now we have the gloss on the card, and we want to keep it pretty low. Let's see, how's that? Looks all right. You turn the roughness down. I still need to learn what anisotropy is. Yeah. What if I darken this a little bit? That looks pretty decent. Can we still see? Alright, we can still see the paper effects. Honestly, what happens if we should also turn this from a rainbow to just black and white. That'll give us a clearer color. Oh yeah, okay, so here you can see kind of what the bump map is doing. This is just a full gradient from black to white, but as we bring in the white, it'll add flat parts so that only certain portions are raised. And that's how you can get like little kind of speckles like you would see maybe on an old roof tile or something like that. Or also some people use a noise texture like this to control like water droplets, but there's better ways to do that now with geometry nodes. But I'm just going to keep it something like that. I might flatten the peaks a little bit. Something like that. Anyway, again, you're not really going to see it. But there we go. There's our card. So now we I can take this, name it card, and we'll go ahead and toss it into its own collection, cards, so we can reference that later. So go ahead and hide those, and the next thing we want to make is going to be our poker chips. So I'm gonna start with a cylinder here, and we'll give it something like 64 sides. Get a pretty smooth cylinder. Go into edit mode, scale it down until it's about, that's probably about right. Now I'm gonna go grab a poker chip real quick that I have for reference, and then I'll be right back and we can start adding texture to that. All right, so I have acquired one of my poker chips, and let's go ahead and put some indentations on this. Actually, I'm gonna make it just slightly thinner. All right, now I wanna make sure both of these sides are selected so that we're doing everything evenly. You leave about that much. Maybe a little more. Yeah, that looks all right. And then a very thin line. All right. I believe that's all of the details, the actual like embossed details on a chip. Just inspecting the chip that I have right here. But looks about right. So now if we take this and we, sometimes it's a little bit finicky, but Alt, there we go. Then we can select all of that. Do the same thing down here. And then E, scale on the Z axis. We can bring that down. So now we have our embossed chip. And the next thing we're going to need to do is Control R, add another edge loop about like that until those are square. So do 0.15 is looking about right. Do the same thing on the other side, make sure it's even, 0.15. And now what we can do is add these 6 little white squares. Actually, now that I'm looking at that, I might want to bring those 2 in a little bit. Like 1. Let's see here. I'm going to give it a little more room. Something like 0.35 should work. All right, so then we have those. Go back to top view, X-ray. Oh, and actually we need to stop being in shading mode because we're not doing the shading part right now. All right, X-ray on, and go to face mode. And we're kind of looking at like this right here, and then of course one on the other side, and then let's see here, maybe one about here-ish. Looks about right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead and do that on the other side. And then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. And 1, 2, 3. Mark that. Okay. So these are going to be white. And they're actually going to be a separate texture, just because they don't have the same kind of texture on the actual chip. And that might just be the chip that I'm using, but I'm gonna make these kind of fancy. So we'll assign this, make this a dark green. Maybe put a little more towards the blues. There we go. And then white, of course, perfectly white. And we'll go to textured view. All right, cool. So there's that. Next, on the inside ring right here, we actually have a couple white parts as well. So kind of in front of each of the white dots in here, you have a white marker. And then additionally, kind of just like in between all of those, you have a white marker. Kind of like that. Now we did end up selecting some of the edges on the side, so we want to make sure we go into the side view and then hold Control to deselect. And just make sure we don't deselect the bottom there, but deselect any of the walls, because we don't want the walls to be white. Perfect. Now we have all those, and we can assign as white. And now we kind of got a chip coming together. So the next part is going to be putting the little dice symbols on it. We'll see if I can get a good example for that. Something pretty simple. But again, we want to make sure it's high enough quality that it still looks good at a high resolution. So we'll go with, again, I know you guys can't see this, I'm just on the internet. We'll go with this one. Cool, it's a PNG, it's perfectly usable. And then on green design, we want to make another one of these UV maps. There's base and dice. And we'll go back to our shading tab. Go into here, and under the green, we want to make sure first that we have the UV map selected next to a mapping node, which will convert all of that UV data into vector or 3D position data. Then we're going to plug that into our image. Perfect. And image into base color. So actually, we're going to need to mix that eventually, now that I'm thinking about it. Go ahead and mix color and select. We'll select that same green and just like that. And then, what is the best way to do this? I guess what we could do is probably, we'll go ahead and open up our dice just so we have those. And then obviously you can see that does not look good. That's not what we want. because really what we want is just to be able to select a few faces here and there. I believe it's going to be these 4 in between each of our white markers. Alright, and then we'll open up our dice on here. And so now, let's see, where is, we just UV project from view. Okay, now we have those. So one of them is going to be, actually they're all going to be big. Then one of them is to go on the 3. Alright, now I'm going to go look for another image real quick. Alright, I think I'll just end up using the same image. But let's see if we can straighten this. Oh, not all of them. If we can just select these edges right here. Oh, no. I was kind of hoping that we would be able to. I guess we might have to do it by hand. Or what if we just SY0? No, SX0. Oh, that works. And then up here, Y0. Now what we'll have to see is, does that distort it too much? How does that look? Okay, does not distort it too much at all. Now the problem we do run into is we are getting the edges of the other dice here. So I might have to find a more separated image. What about, here's another one. This one should work. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a shot. This one has the dice separated, as you'll see in a second. This one has the dice separated, so ideally, even though it has some weird, kind of shading effects on the dice, if we make it just black and white with a color ramp, and then let's go ahead and take a look at that. Linear, we'll go constant. Okay, so we can't actually fix that, but let's see. Let's see what we can do with that. Again, we'll take all of these. Here's what happens if we unwrap as a cube. Okay, it's gonna give us the same exact thing. So we might as well just project from view. And we'll scale those up again. Even more. Rotate them until they're straight. That'll make it easier to line up. All right. And then this one will be 1. This one will be 2. 3 over here. 4. 5. And 6. Although, now that I'm looking at it, that needs to be like that. Which means that 3, while it does look good right now, should probably be like that. Okay, so there we go. That's looking all right. And then oh no. Oh, that was all in the base. Okay. Well, we'll just rename these. Okay, now the problem we're going to run into is we need the rest of this dice to be that gray color. Okay, so happens that can we plug that in? Cannot. Okay. So how can we separate these? Obviously, I guess what we could do, and this would be the easiest thing to do, would just be to make it a new material. Actually, that is the wrong square. It needs to be these ones that are selected. Yeah, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Green dice. We're just gonna make it a separate material. And that'll solve the majority of our problems. Go back until we have all of these selected. Dice, assign. And I'll turn them black for right now so we can see what we're working with. Assign. You, we assign there. And then project from view. So hopefully that's all the same color. And if we just unplug all of this, that should give us, all right, a green dice again with no, these need to be dice. Everything else needs to be green. Not everything else. everything else minus the white needs to be green. Okay, so unfortunately, we will have to re-UV map our dice. But luckily that wasn't too difficult. Let's go ahead and T. Toss that in. Find our dice picture again, plug that in. Make sure it's set as UV. And now let's see if we can't just redo these. All right, so again, rotate that until it's mostly straight, mostly straight, mostly straight. Just do that to all the sides, and then we'll figure out these two on the side once we get to that. But for now, there's the 1, there's the 2, the 3 goes up, 4, and the 6 goes up like so. Make sure those are all lined up nicely. And okay, so there we go. That's kind of what we're looking at. And then problem we're going to run into, actually, that's not a problem. We could just solve that with a color ramp. Make the black white and the white that same green. And now what we should be seeing, make that constant, should give us all white, perfect, and we'll just bring that in until like something like that. Now what's interesting is actually giving me some of the lighting in our green color. So what happens if I just copy this, place it in there, and now we have that perfect green color. No, we don't need that anymore, we can just delete that. Okay, there we go. Now look at that. Now we have our little dice on there. And what I do want to do is make each of these a little bit bigger. So it's going to go to individual origins and scale those up. Not too much, we don't want them intersecting with each other, but we do want to make sure that each dice is getting plenty of space around it. Go ahead and select this one. I'm also just kind of straightening these as I go along, which makes it easier in the future to line everything up and just make sure it looks clean. Alright, how's that look? That looks actually pretty good. I am looking at it, and this center area actually looks like it's a little bit select all of this. It doesn't matter, we can just be really loose about it. Then we go in here. It's kind of a tedious process, but, and I'm sure there's an easier way to do it. Actually, hang on a second, there might be. If we just control numpad plus, I remembered it, let's go. That makes it so much easier. Perfect. Okay, and this, shift SC, move that in a little bit. and then the rest of it, Shift S, nope, how's that? Oh, negative, just this maybe? Wait a second, that just scaled down the entire thing. We need, how does that work? I guess we could do like that, and then take that out. Scale. I'm trying to figure out how, what if we, like that, do the same thing on the other side. It doesn't matter. All right, we'll just stick with that. Now one thing on the dice, we do need to make sure that we indent these a little bit. We can't actually indent them just because that would take forever to try and carve around each of the dice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do that with another normal map. Bump to height, height to normal. And then ideally what we should be looking at, make this pure black and invert it. Should look like that's sunken in. Perfect. And then how? You might just have to redo this. That way we can scale it up a little bit. No. We'll just make a third UV map. Input UV map, UV to vector, dice inset, which should be the same as dice right now. We select just those. Okay, that is dice inset, perfect. And then individual origins, if we just scale it down a little bit, is that going to give us, yeah, there you go, that gives us our indent kind of facing deal. So then if we just go and recenter these, should be perfectly inset. Now unfortunately what we are going to end up with is those dots in the middle, but there's not a whole lot I can actually do about that unless I get another image that's just the boxes around the dice, which I don't want to try and find one of those. So we're just gonna go with it. It looks alright, just looks like it was poorly stamped or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. Alright, and now on the green design, we are going to do a bump map on this as well, just to add some data. Bump, go to the height, that's the normal. And for this, I'm going to open up just one of my image textures that I have, and that'll make it really easy to get some high quality kind of info without a lot of processing per se. So let's see, now it's more of a cloth. What would be a good image for this? Why don't we just try that? Ooh, definitely gonna need to make that lower, 0.2. Also make the chip a little bit rougher. I'm actually not very happy with how that's looking. Maybe that's why. Ooh. It's not right. What UV map are you instancing? Probably this one. No, not that one. Oh goodness. Let's make sure it's referencing the base. No, actually, we'll just keep it on dice. Doesn't really matter. But what we can do, make sure it's all selected. Just go to this. Let's see, how's that look? So that gives us kind of just like that plasticky feel. Just, you know, there's a little bit of inconsistencies in how it was made. I'm actually kind of liking that. That's not bad at all. What happens if I like move it over here? I want to try and get that seam out of it without making it too low resolution. How's that look? Oh, that looks all right. All right, and what's nice is we should be able to, if I just delete that, I'll go UV map to dice. Oh wait, but we have dice referenced in here. So that's actually a problem. Okay, because I need to add the same uneven texture to this as well. But because we're referencing the dice UV map here, okay, we are actually going to have to flip that to base. Still not an issue, it just means base. Okay, we're just gonna have to go here, UV, project from view, and stick that in there just like that. Okay, perfect, looks good again. If we come down here and mix color, the UV map, go base, UV, actually what am I doing? I could just go from this one and copy all of that into here. And that works great. Mix that. I forgot this is really high. So we're actually going to, I don't know, what would that be? Would that be vector math? Because this is a vector data. Make another one of these. Plug into height. And then what was this at? 0.01. Interesting. Oh wait, never mind, that's just because we deselect that. This is not in the project from view. So now if we have it like that, scale that up, now it should line up perfectly, more or less. And our roughness was 605, 0.605. Cool. And now you can still see there's a little bit of something going on there that's a little weird, but for the most part, I think it looks all right. Is that about, actually, I would almost say, let's go ahead and make that even smaller. So you can really just barely see the roughness. Do something like that. All right, excellent. And then over here, poker chips have a bevel on the corners. Not a problem at all. Just bevel like that. And that should give us a pretty decent looking chip. Let's see, are there bevels anywhere else on the chip? No. Okay, it appears there's only a bevel on the side right there, which works in our favor. And there we go. Now we have a chip. Even though the middle's still really big, but I don't know how to fix that. I just over exaggerate it like that. Oh wait, actually, I think I just figured it out. We just need to select this. Come on, come on, come on. Nope. Turn that off. Sometimes it's, I wish there's a trick to like selecting a specific edge marker. Okay, so we got that one. No. Nope. 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 Come on, you know what I want. Okay, that's all messed up now. I guess you know what I'm gonna do. We've got X-ray mode. Come through here and unselect all of these so that we're not changing those. All right, if we scale that in, does that give us what we're looking for? I want to make sure it's textured. Kind of. It does mess up our dice though. Man, we're gonna have to redo the dice again. Okay. But it did work. So now we have a thinner centerpiece. And then if we just do like that, that works. Just like that. And UV editing, dice, nope, dice face. Make sure this is the material preview. That's weird. Why is that not? Oh, because we're, okay, there we go. Okay, so I might just do that on all of these. Make sure it's individual origins. Okay, perfect. That way we don't have to redo all of that. Let me make sure I remember what number that is. We'll do 1.5. How does that look? Pretty good. Dice inset SY 1.5. So that matches. Okay, perfect. Much better. And what I might end up doing is just moving each of these up. Ooh, not that much. We'll just move all of these back a little bit so that they're more centered again. Actually, these are going to be positive. They are a little bit warped. I'm honestly not sure why. Oh well. That looks much better now. So we'll go back to layout and mark this as chip. And later on we can get to customizing colors and all that good stuff. But for right now, we'll just leave it like that. And I kind of want to take this this white, just make it the slightest bit beige, just to kind of add some texture to it. All right, I think that looks great. So just like the card, we'll give it its own collection, chips. Go ahead and create that. And let's see here. Just gonna move these kind of out of the way. Make sure this is scaled to about the right size. And now originally I was gonna make like a full-on poker table, but I think for the sake of this shot and the fact that it's already been an hour, I'll just make a small little section that the camera will see and not like a full table, just to make it easier. So go ahead and scale this up. Control A, scale. And then this will be our table. So our table, just like the chip, is going to be like a green felt kind of thing. Let's move that over here, make it darker. Say that looks about right. Now the hardest part with this is going to be definitely getting that texture on it. So I'm almost curious. I highly doubt I have an image that could be useful for that. But let's see if we can't find something. Okay. Open. We'll go back to our image textures. And this is really funny, but I'm almost curious. If I use bricks, how does that work? Because here's kind of what I'm thinking. Okay, maybe not. It's actually pretty bad. Right, it's not gonna, I highly doubt that's gonna actually look. Okay, yeah, that did not really do it. We might just make it procedural. If I just do like a Musgrave. Oh, did they remove that? I think they removed Musgrave textures. But if we just do the bump to height, how does that look on this one? Not terrible, but not very fabric-y. Although I guess what we could do, if we do that color ramp thing where we make like small sections, let that process, small sections that are flat. Like that. And then if we just like scale this up a ton and increase the depth maybe. I'm curious because I'm going to render this in cycles, so I'm going to toss it into cycles and see how that's looking, because usually cycles will react better. Not terrible, but it looks more like a wall than fabric. Let's just see if the internet has any textures. Probably not. But this one is just a green felt texture, which we can actually use as our regular texture. And then we gotta make sure that that's green felt. Project from view. Like that. Okay. And already that does look a lot better. I'm gonna make a new light to more accurately simulate what we're gonna be working with when we're done, which is hopefully going to be a couple kind of bar light looking things. A little bit yellow in them. Okay, so that actually doesn't look horrible. Kind of shrink this. We're actually kind of getting something there. As long as you're not like really up close, that kind of works. Let's make it a little rougher. And then, oh, here's what we could do. If we turn that up and the detail up as well, that's just going to give us like a ton of extra information in that. And that, honestly, is not looking too bad. I think we could definitely work with that. Ooh. Okay, so that cannot go more than one. Got it. Yeah, I think that looks alright. It's only 100. Make it a little rougher. Something like that. And then we could technically actually like scale this on one direction. Yeah, something like that. Actually, what if it's just like regular 1.9? Okay, that's the same. Yeah, because you can kind of see when it's not 0. When it's at 1, it almost looks like it's kind of horizontally stretched a little bit. But if we make it that 1.9, then it looks like smaller individual points. So I think, oh man, when you zoom out though, it looks really big. Just because it's a repeating pattern of noise. I mean, it's technically not repeating, but your brain tricks you into thinking it's repeating. How can we make that work? Turn on this and we'll go random and then RZ. Then that gives us a super quick random kind of placement of the chips. And then, actually, we'll make that even more random. There you go. So now, it's actually a little bit too much. All right, yeah, that's not bad. Wait a second, why did you flip around? Oop, that's probably why. Alright, and then the chips themselves could actually be a little bit bigger. I was thinking maybe a little bit less detail. Yeah, something like that. That looks alright. Turn these back down to 1,000. Alright, so now we got our camera set up, which looks pretty good. Now that I'm looking at it, I know we spent like all that time to make the back face look good, but I'm almost tempted to just add a little bit of thickness. Just because, cards actually do have thickness. If we solidify this, yeah, it's gonna make material offset. Nope. But yeah, just something like that, so it has a little bit of thickness. I think that would go a long way. Oop, not hide. GZ, place that file on the table. There 5 maybe. Yeah. And then of course, that makes it kind of a different thing. Whereas before we were doing the back face and all that, not dice face, cards. Now what we need to do is really just do another UV map scenario. So luckily we still have the face and back. So let's see, because we're not going to be using the back facing anymore. So how do we mix those? I guess we could just do face and back. I want to try and avoid adding so many materials, just because, obviously that's going to make it take longer to render, but I don't know. It makes it easier. So now if we go to here, just delete that. should be working. Why are you not working? Okay, there we go. Just had to compile the shaders. And then on the front, oh wait, was I still in X-ray mode? Probably, yeah. On the front, this becomes face texture, and face is just going to be all of this identically. Except instead of using the back, we use the front. Okay. And then of course we are going to have to project from view again and reset card. So these ones actually have black boxes around them anyway, so we don't have to worry about getting that black edge as much. But there we go. And then how does this look in rendered view? If we unhide everything, not bad. I'm going to change the glossiness. Card. Something like that, so we have a little bit more shine in it. And now what happens here? Okay, so we can adjust those separately. We go GY, bring that up there. Perfect. Okay, and then, you know, actually, let's spice this up a little bit. Let's give him something a little different. We're not gonna go pair here. We'll do like that. Go ahead and mark this so I can only see what's being rendered. View, camera view. All right, cool. Set that in there. How's that look? It's looking all right. And then over here, let's go ahead and deselect all of this. Move these up so that they are all sitting on top of the poker table. And then let's go ahead and just give this guy some more money. Each of these, we will just select a certain amount of them. And take them off. All right, so let's go ahead and move those a little bit more in frame. Not too much. We still want to add a bit of stuff kind of off the camera to imply that there's more going on outside of the scene. Okay, but now he has that. Now all we have to do is go in here and okay. Actually, like this. This would be red, I guess, and red dice. This will be blue, blue dice. And we might end up changing these. I'm gonna go look up the values real quick so I can make sure this guy's not accidentally playing with like $12,000. Okay, so this one blue, red, white, green. Okay, so I did get it correct. So he still got himself quite a bit of cash here, but not a ridiculous amount. So go ahead and link materials so that when we turn these white, cool. And then all of these become blue. And link materials. And then that means that all of these link materials and they become red. So now the only thing we need to change on those is the dice, because of course, copy that. The dice little part here is not going to be green as well. But we made it pretty simple to change. All you have to do is go in, copy that color code, and then under this color ramp, go ahead and change that. And white is just all F. Oh, interesting. So this is actually going to need to kind of flip a little bit. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to see the dice on it. But there we go. That works all right. Cool. And now he's got a nice little assortment of chips, each with their own thing. And actually, I want to say on the white chips, you actually get like dark blue spots or something like that. Let me go take another look at my chips so I can see if that's how it does kind of the variation. All right, so yeah, so mine turn it like a deep blue, but in this case, we'll just go ahead and do black color Or I guess that is a deep blue. Cool. And now if we look at the camera view, that looks pretty good. Just mark this as table. And then the next thing we're gonna have to do is make sure that this guy is gonna be winning quite a bit. Can you see all those? Yeah, that looks all right. For some reason, these cards still look really big, and I'm trying to figure out if they're actually big or just... I don't know, what happens if I scale all of these cards down just a little bit? That looks better. All right, and now let's see, what cards should we do? I want to start off and make it seem like he was going to be very unlucky with this hand. So do something like a 3. Something like that. And then let's see. Would be, I guess we could give him a straight. That's actually not that good. You know, we'll give him a full house. Full house is good. Which means we are going to need 3 cards. Okay. So we need the Jack of Clovers, and we'll get the, what is that, King of Hearts. So we have the King of Diamonds, King of Hearts, and then you can be the King of Spades. Yes, it is a 5 of a kind. This is the ultimate hand. You know, people always talk about royal flushes, but it's really about the 5 of a kind. If you can pull a 5 of a kind, that's the winning hand right there. Okay, so we need to change this jack because we already have that in our hand. So again, we'll keep with the really unlucky, a 3 and a 7. All right, so let's see, that is 1, 2, yep, okay, so that is full house. Perfect. And then, why do these look really flat? These actually, is that like clipping through the table, or is it actually just that flat? It's actually just that flat. Okay, whoops. Oh, because I scaled it down, but I forgot to tell it not to scale on the Z axis. Let's give our, there we go. That's still pretty flat, but we do have our thickness back. Okay. I'll go ahead and just move these a little bit closer to the camera. That way we can put our like pile of chips right here. Yeah, that should work. And then, okay, so here's what we need to do. We need to take, not edit mode, you take the bottom chip of each of these, not Control M, source chips. All right, create, and then the rest of these. Here, let's go ahead and just select all of that. Don't need the cards, just need the chips. So if we now deselect that, we should be able to just say all of you are one object now, because we're not going to be actually moving these chips at all. So we just make this one giant object, which will be much better. And I think even though we technically just duplicated the stack, so they're at like the same random positions, I don't think anyone's going to notice, but just in case, we'll just go like, just rotate them a bit. Just in case anybody's actually really good at pattern recognition. Okay. Oh, uh-oh. Why did they turn black? Hold up. Something's not right there. Right. So for some reason, oh, what? Okay. Well, that's really annoying, actually. Somehow, the cards got like an animation keyframe on them. Yeah, so they were being like animated. And so as soon as I change anything, they all go to wherever that like first keyframe was. Okay, so hang on a sec. All right, none of you move. I must have accidentally pressed I at some point. Okay, there's an easier way to do this. Animation. All right, we don't want the dope sheet, we want the graph editor. And delete all of that. All right, there should be 0 animation data in the scene so far. All right. Cool. So now, I believe I backed up to before these were thickened, so we do have to thicken them again. It's a little bit too much. There we go. That look right? Yeah, that looks okay. Cool. And these, I feel like they're clipping through the table. I guess not. But I'll just move them up a little bit. And then we said we were going to move them forward so you can see them better. Not up, forward. Something like that. And then the last thing we need to do is I'm actually I'm gonna zoom out a bunch, but then give us a better zoom lens. And that'll allow us to do better depth of field. So I turn on the depth of field right now. make it these cards. We can do depth of field now, which is pretty cool. Let's do something like that. And now comes the fun part. Let me go ahead and make this thicker so that it can interact with stuff. Rigid body passive, and then where are our source chips? Oh wait, that's right. We still, because we had to go back, these are still not joined. Just go ahead and join all of these. Just like that. Perfect. Nothing's lost texture. What we did forget to do though is indicate these each to be separate. Excellent. New collection, source, chips. All right, sweet. And then here's the question. I have the molecular add-on installed, so technically I could make a particle system where the particles interact with each other, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. We could try it. This could be interesting. Tools. Go ahead, edit this in here. Render as collection. And we're going to use the source chips. And this is going to be not rigid body, but collision. Oh, it's so funny. Now I just have a million tiny little poker chips raining from the sky. But it doesn't look like it's damping. I'll turn up the damping. Okay. So that is working now. But we need to make sure that they're the actual object scale. And there's only going to be about 100 of them. Oh, object scale is enabled. Okay. Are these interacting with each other? Yes, but not very well. Alright, well, let's go ahead. Oh, that would be why, because the point of origin is all off. Origin to geometry. There we go. And then if we reset this, why are you still floating? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Scale you down. Okay, now the molecular stuff is not working. These should be stacking on each other. Oh, that. Oh, where Where are they going? What? Alright, well that is not actually what we're looking for. So molecular particles is one of those things I want to get better at because it's super useful if you can figure it out. But for right now, we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way. Bring these guys up in the air and just make a bunch of copies. Stuff kind of like something kind of like that. I'll go ahead and hide the lighting for a sec. We're going to need these to all have that random rotation. That way. Okay, now we gotta set this back to rigid body passive. That's a box. This is rigid body active as a cylinder. And now if we do this, object, rigid body, copy from active. Okay. Well, ideally those wouldn't have exploded out so far, but you can kind of see what we're going for here. They should just naturally fall on each other and stack. So I think what I'm going to do is, how can we do this? If we select all of these, we just move them back. Man, this guy is... Alright. Because, like, before they explode... Oh, well, I guess they're all just cramped in there, but... Let's add some more of these. Some more of the not white ones. Mix everything up. So what we could do is just do something like that, and then just delete the ones that go like too far away. I do want to have the majority of these all be very close to each other. That way we don't get as large of a spread starting out. So that actually looks all right. If I go into the camera and I turn off the depth of field for right now, that actually looks all right. I can work with that. Okay, so we'll go here, and then I'll just move a couple of these in more. Oh, oh right. Okay, so hang on. We got to how do we do this? I want to say it's under here, rigid body world. Calculate to frame. Okay, and then there's something here where I can turn this into just like, I can just copy them as is and not have them like fall at the start. Otherwise, everything that we do is going to have, or like any animation that we do is going to have them falling at the beginning, which obviously they would already be there, so we don't want that. So let's try to remove rigid. Nope, that didn't do it. Shoot. All right. Well, they got to resimulate now. Let's see here. I'm kind of looking up right now how you go about that. Okay, is it that fight? That didn't look right because it moved. How do we do this? I know that there's a way that you can do it. I've done it before. Alright, give me just a second, guys, while I figure this out. I thought I remembered how to do this, but I do not. Alright, I think I might have figured it out. Let's give it a shot. Object, rigid body, apply transformation. That sounds about right. So I then do that to all of these. Can I do that to all of these? Apply transformation? Okay, maybe not. I mean, we could always bake to keyframes and then just delete all of these keyframes. But that's kind of annoying. What? Oh, interesting. Now why? Okay, maybe not. Give me a couple more minutes. Certainly there must be an easier way to do this. All right. So I'm gonna try. This is gonna be risky, but what happens if I? Oh. Wait a second. Well, that seems to have worked. Okay, this is classic Blender being Blender, but I must have clicked something this time that I didn't click last time, because this time, just removing the rigid body world worked just fine. Just gonna move a couple of these around to kind of break up any similarity. All right, excellent. And then go ahead and turn our depth of field back on. Make that very shallow if we want, but I'm actually gonna do something like that. I like that. That's nice. And then, oh wait, shoot, I forgot. That's funny. Oh yeah, I accidentally moved the original 4 chips from the bottom instead of duplicating them. So this guy now has less chips in his stack, but he just won all this probably, assuming this guy or the other 2 people didn't have anything. So I'm sure he's doing all right. Okay, now let's go ahead and give ourselves some cool lighting, because that's going to be the next most important part. I want to make these individual origins. Kind of like that. I want it to be pretty like dramatic lighting. Maybe if we separate them a little bit like that. That's not bad. And what happens if we make them, ooh, interesting. We can get some colors in here. So give it like a nice warm tone. That looks kind of cool. And then I'm almost curious what happens if we just give ourselves like an extra light over here that is purely for dramatic effect. Like it's not practical at all, but it just gives us like a highlight. Can you even see that? That is awful. I mean, it looks kind of cool on the chips, but like the rest of the scene, I don't like what it's doing. I do think one thing we could add though, if we do a cube, you know how poker lounges are usually like, you know, like they'll allow smoking and all that. So what if we just give the entire table just this slight haze over it? Call this smoke. Nothing too dramatic, obviously, because you don't want to be suffocating while you're playing. But if we just do like do a principled volume in here. Principled volume, excellent. Toss that in the volume. And 0.01. Not that much. But something kind of like that. And then if we do a noise texture, color ramp. We put this in as 0.025. Oh wait, no, this is going to be 0.025, and this is going to be 0. Alright, what I'm hoping I can do here is just kind of give it a little bit of, you know, where only like certain parts are hazy, but also apply scale. And then that's still not doing it, so we need to, yeah, something like that. Crank up the detail, crank up the roughness, and bring down the scale. Let's see, can I view that? In textured view. Not very well. Okay. How about so that doesn't really affect a whole lot, but not bad. I'm kind of thinking about it now. What if we just make this white light and then do the coloring in post? That might be better, just so that we can do all of the coloring at once. I'm gonna mess around with the camera a little bit more. Oh, hey, you know what we could do? We could toss a rigid body, or not rigid body, why am I? No, an environment texture. So we can get some like dynamic lighting from all sides. That would be excellent. So we'll go Blender, HDRIs. Okay, and let's do something kind of orangish. I'm gonna turn off the area lights right now so we could just see what the environment texture is doing. So that gives a little bit of natural oranges. This is gonna be pretty bright, I think. Yeah. Turn it down. Toss in the area lights. These lights are really bright. I might do like 750. No. This one will give us some nice oranges. We go back to our original slightly orange idea. I think that looks nice. And then we get some nice lighting on the chips, a little bit on the cards. I am gonna go back and make our felt table. Okay, actually we want to apply but not selectable. Okay. Perfect. Okay, green felt. I'm gonna give us a little bit more saturation on the table, because the felt is looking a little bit dull right now. But if we just like crank up the saturation, we could also change the color of it. But I think that looks kind of nice. So if you went like in between those two, that works. All the saturation. No. Okay. Let's see here. It's interesting. I can't really actually see that much of a difference. I think that's all right. If you move these up a little more, does that look better or more dramatic lighting? I'm honestly kind of vibing with the dramatic lighting. I think that looks good. Yeah. We'll go with that. I'm gonna do a test render. Oh, I forgot to set all my render settings. That would have taken like 30 minutes to render. Okay, we only need like 64 samples of even that. Light paths, toss that down to 4. Transmission, we don't have any transmission. Glossy, we do need that. Volume, that's gonna be crazy, but whatever. I think that would probably mess it up. Simplify, sure, why not? Performance, make sure persistent data is checked. And then our noise threshold, like 0.1. And then render. Interesting, that's still taking like 1 minute per frame. So honestly, I'm gonna cut down that volume pass because I don't actually think we need the volume pass. Even if it does make it look a little better, and that should cut down a lot of time. How much did that cut down? Somehow that made it longer. Yeah, who knows? Well, I guess we'll just sit here for a minute and see what that looks like at the end. That's at 32. Honestly, I could probably just cut it off at 32 and that would save us half the time. And then we just do some denoising in post. Probably work great. I don't know. My computer's throwing a fit over here. All right, there we go. That looks pretty nice. Good gloss on the card. Chips look good. Felt table looks all right. So we have that. We'll go into compositing. Let's really make this look good. So first we're going to do a little bit of glare just in case there's anything there. Fog glow or bloom. Oop, not bloom, fog glow. First, hue, saturation, and value. That's way too much. I'm not gonna go like fully color this, mostly because I don't know what I'm looking for, but also because I don't know, I'm not super familiar with color grading, so I want to make sure that it looks good, but also not do that on stream because that would just take a bunch of extra time that you guys would just be watching. Just gonna give that a little bit of that works. High quality. So I think I might leave it there for right now and then finish this up later on my own. But yeah, there it is. There's a finished poker scene right there. Well, not finished, but we finished all the modeling and the simulating, so I think it turned out all right. I'll leave it there. And thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream, and I will see you next time.